The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. This is Comfortably Zoned Radio, and it's time for Dodgers baseball. A tale of two cities, from Brooklyn to Los Angeles. My name is Peter Trunk, and my co-hosts, as usual, are Ron Rabinovitz and Fred Wallin. Fred, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, and the Dodgers are doing fine, and we also have a guest, do we not?
Yes, we do have a guest. First, I want to say hello to Ronnie Rabinovitz out there in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Peter?
How are you, Ronnie, baby?
Good.
Okay, I'm doing good. Doing good. Yes, we do have a guest, as Fred mentioned, and he's been on the show more than a few times. He is a Brooklyn boy and a Brooklyn Dodger fan from years ago, and he's transplanted down to Florida and lately from United Kingdom, and he's back in the USA. And Bernie Rose, welcome, Bernie Rose.
Thank you. Nice to be back with you guys. And it's a fun time once again.
Yeah, like Fred said, I'm fine and the Dodgers are fine. Before we move there, I want to remind you guys, if you already aren't thinking about it or weren't thinking about it all day today, today is the anniversary of the final World Series game ever to be played at Ebbets Field. 1956. Johnny Cucks of the Yankees shut out the Dodgers 9-0. Berry hit 2 home runs. Newcomb was the loser. That was Jackie Robinson's final appearance on a baseball field.
Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
Right.
Yeah.
He retired weeks later, and after he was ignominiously traded to the Giants, he retired. But today's the day, 1956, seventh game of the World Series. The Dodgers were just coming off a victory, a 10-inning victory. Clem Labine had shut out the Yankees 1-0, a 10-inning complete game. Jackie Robinson hit a line drive over Enos Slaughter's head in left field to score the winning run 1-0. And the day before that, Don Larson bested Sal Maglie 2-0 with a perfect game. All of those games, all 7 games of that World Series in 1956, Jackie Robinson batted cleanup. He played in every game, all 7 games, and batted cleanup in every game. And his final hit was in the 6th game, in the bottom of the 10th inning, a line drive over Enos Slaughter's head for the Dodger victory. The Dodgers scored 1 run in the final 28 innings of that World Series. And this is a team that year led the National League in home runs and runs scored. So baseball is a funny game. Now, let's move on to today, 2018. The Dodgers are still involved. They got by and eliminated in the first round, best out of 5. They were victorious. One thing that stands out in my mind, and I hope in one or two other guys here on the show tonight, was I really felt very, very good about Clayton Kershaw and his what he did in his start. Any comments on that?
He was excellent. Absolutely.
Okay.
That was the Kershaw of old, minus the zip on the fastball. I mean, he wasn't throwing 97, 98, but he was doing everything that the old Kershaw was doing, and that is throwing strikes, striking guys out, getting outs, not using too many pitches. I thought he should have thrown a complete game, but that's another subject. That really made me feel good when I saw that Kershaw was effective. I thought he had lost it, and I thought that Kenley Jansen had lost it too. And let's face it, unless you want to disagree with me, Jansen and Kershaw are not the old Jansen and Kershaw. They're the brand new additions, and hopefully they'll be good enough going forward.
Well, we've talked about that. We have talked about that, and yet they're getting the job done. Kershaw, I mean, his ERA, 2.73. You know, it's usually better than that, but that's excellent. You know, and he was out again for 2 months or whatever. But but he only pitched 161 innings this year, 155 strikeouts, which is good, but he would have normally had more. But the thing is, he's getting better and better these last 6 weeks.
Yeah. He has.
I'm sorry I missed that game because I was.
What about Ryu? How did he pitch? My God, he was terrific.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Let me take the other side of Kershaw, who I like as a human being. And again, I've said this a million times on this show and other shows that his wife and him go to Africa and Asia during the winter, and they give to charities. And you can't have a nicer guy and a nicer family than the Kershaws. But I don't think he had 1 strikeout through 7 innings. There were 21 outs. Watching the game, there were 5 or 6 hard-hit balls. They were caught. That's not going to happen all the time. So your point, Peter, is 100% correct. It's not the same Kershaw. Is he going to be as fortunate against a solid-hitting Milwaukee club, or if they win that one later on to Houston or Boston? Because those line drives aren't always caught. And 1 strikeout in 7 innings, you know, look, here's a guy who used to average close to 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. 1 to 7, I don't know he's ever done. I believe the last 8 years, I'm willing to bet that's never happened to him before. So he did get 2 strikeouts in the 8th inning before they pulled him, but that's a little bit scary from that perspective because line drives are not always caught.
No, and he's not throwing 97 anymore. You know, that's
no.
Mix that in with the slider and the curveball, which is not even quite as sharp as it used to be either. But he's been gutsing it out. What worries me a little bit is that they're going to cater to him when, in fact, Ryu has been better all year. Unfortunately, he was out for 3 months.
Right.
And only pitched 82 innings, had 89 Ks, but he had a 197.
Yeah.
And he's been phenomenal. And if you take away
if I'm reading you correctly, and please correct me if I'm not, but if I'm reading you between the lines, if you take all the emotion out of it, the Dodgers should be starting Game 1 with Ryu.
Absolutely.
And not Kershaw.
Absolutely.
That's his day. It'd be his turn. So what you're doing
is
you're forcing him to wait 6 days. If he gets hit hard, that's going to be the excuse that I wasn't on my 5-day schedule. But they're doing it in my, just logically thinking about this. We talked about this last week.
Yep.
You don't want Kershaw can opt out of his contract. I don't think he was happy being the second guy in the last series. They don't want him going to Texas or Houston, where he's from. So perhaps that's why they've jumped over Ryu, because of the two. Watching both games, Ryu was more dominant than Kershaw was.
Yes, no doubt about it.
But Peter, you and I, we've discussed this in the past. You want to pay? He's supposed to get $35 million next year.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the last 2 years, he's been out for 2 months every season.
Well, you know what?
Now he doesn't.
You know what? I'm going to tell you something. A lot of things enter into contracts and front offices, and I know that when the front office sits down, and they've already done this, I'm quite sure they've already decided whether they're going to attempt to keep him or let him go or whatever, or they're hoping if he opts out or if he signs or whatever. I'm sure they've gone over this. If you and I, Bernie, If you and I have gone over this 3 or 4 times, they've gone over this 65,000 times. Okay, but let me get to my point. Here's my point. My point is this. Do you count, and let me finish. Don't jump all over me now. Does it matter that he and his wife go to Africa and build schools and give money to other kids? I mean, of course it matters in the world, in the scheme of things, in life.
Not to the Dodgers.
Right. To the one-loss record of the Dodgers, and just the Dodgers in baseball. I know that sounds cold, but if you divorce all of that other stuff and just think about the Dodgers and their success or failure and how much money they should spend per victory. I know we've all seen, Verlander's making, let's say he's making $25 million a year. He won 25 games one year. That's $1 million a game, okay? Kershaw's making $35 million. He's not going to win 35 games. Is it penny smart, pound foolish to pay him $35 million because he builds schools in Africa?
Yeah.
And you build up good fortune and good name in the newspapers and the magazines and the press and everything, and your fans all think you're hunky-dory? Or do you go for all the wins you can get? Now, some people argue you can get 3 pretty damn good pitchers for what you're paying Kershaw next year.
Peter, they've already answered that question.
All right.
By jumping him over Ryu, believe me, that was not Robert's choice. That was management's choice. They get it back in good graces, so they have answered the question. Yes, they're willing to pay it. They hope he does not opt out. They're willing to pay it. And let me say this. One of the reasons that people are always talking about Puig is not because he's not a good player on the field. It's because sometimes he does crazy things and this and that and whatever, and let's get rid of him. The opposite would be a Kershaw. I think in a situation where you're already blacking out 60 to 70% of the people on television from Vegas to Los Angeles, there has to be some positives. And the positive is that everybody knows that Kershaw is a good guy from that aspect, and it's a good family. And no matter how much you make, if you give millions away, you're doing a good cause, and you're part of something that's positive. And the Dodgers need that. I mean, they do, from the point of view that there's people like me who, every radio show I do, I'm going after them for the blackout. I think you need things to balance it out. And here's a guy who could play his entire career in Los Angeles with the Dodgers, all things being equal. And how often does that happen? So I think from that aspect, they've answered the question, because right now, on Friday, he's going to be the starting pitcher. Otherwise, Ryu would be the starting pitcher, and they know that would anger Kershaw, and he'd probably definitely leave. And I don't know if he's going to leave or not, but I'm just saying I think their decision has been made from their side.
Well,
that's a good point.
Sure,
all good points, Fred. What do you think, Bernie?
In the last round, I mean, that was the rotation. It was Ryu Kershaw, and he stayed to it because in the past, maybe you don't want to tick Kershaw off if you want to keep him or something like that, but he's had his problems in the postseason, and he's also done well in the postseason. But it made sense to keep them both on their full day's rest, and it paid off. Ryu's a free agent. He's going to be gone.
Why wouldn't they be doing it now, the second time? If they weren't.
I wish too.
If they weren't trying to save Kershaw, if they weren't trying to keep Kershaw happy, they know he was upset. Why wouldn't they have kept to that rotation starting Friday? Why wouldn't Ryu start again? He'd be his friend.
Yeah.
So it
came down from the front office, I would imagine, like you just said.
I got to think that.
Yeah.
I
very
think so
interesting.
too.
That's very interesting. Does anyone know the rosters yet? Have they released the roster for the next round?
I haven't seen it.
I have not seen it either.
Someone predicted, I read somewhere, it might have been Howard Cole. I don't know if it was where did I read this? Anyway, I read that the prediction is that people on the inside are predicting the exact same roster as the first round. No changes.
Which is interesting.
So you got 12 pitchers, two catchers, same guys.
Would you keep Stripling off the roster he was off the roster in the division series? Would you keep him off the division in the championship series? Would you keep him off the roster because he was off the roster again against Atlanta?
All right, let me answer that with a question. Who would you replace?
Well,
if you took him onto the roster, who would you drop?
Look, one of the relievers who, you can't count on. I mean, and believe me, most of them you can't count on. Maeda is not happy being a reliever, and he's been hit. And again, you said it, Peter. I mean, Jansen and the heart ailment is not the same pitcher he was before. He
right.
Absolutely. Last 3 outs in the win over Atlanta, but I wouldn't count on him with a 3-2 lead. And
apparently he got it up there to 94 or 95, which he hadn't really done all year.
I saw 94 on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Bernie, I think you were on your vacation, and you probably didn't fly back to the United States of America, and the first thing you did was play our last week's podcast. But
correct.
I thought so. Fred made a really good point last week. I was talking about how Jansen has trouble in Colorado, in Denver.
Oh, yeah.
And if the Dodgers faced Colorado, that he couldn't go to Denver and play in those games. And Fred raised a really good point. Fred said, you know what? Think about it this way. He's in Colorado because he can't really take it there because it's the mile-high city. How about when he gets in an airplane to go anywhere?
I was thinking about that myself, but I guess...
So he's 36,000 feet in the air instead of 5,000 feet in the air above sea level. So if you're 36,000 feet in the air, and as Fred was saying it, I'm going, why the hell didn't I think of that? That's so obvious,
Sure.
And then a little voice in the back of my head, and I don't know anything about aerodynamics. I don't know anything. I never flew an airplane. I don't know any. My wife did. I never did. I don't know anything. But maybe the pressurized cabin takes away that.
Well, I was going to go down that road. Yeah. I mean,
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does.
It's and you're sitting there in a plane and it's pressurized. You don't feel it. It's completely different.
Except Ernie Johnson, son Ernie Johnson Jr., the son of the former pitcher, of course, for the Braves, now the announcer, of course, for TBS and TNT, cannot do the play-by-play this year because he has blood clots. And he can't get into an airplane. And he can't get into an airplane. So I think so again, I don't know anything about what you can, how ill you can get in an airplane. I hate flying anyway. But my point is, Ernie Johnson cannot get in an airplane. He's got to do it from the Atlanta studio. And I think health-wise, Jansen is probably in the same circumstance. But a player is always going to say he wants to play. Johnson,
he's not taking his medicine. That's
not
the
even
problem.
taking his medicine, and that's that proves it. I mean, a player wants to play.
Right.
Doctor authorized medicine.
Right.
No, I pitch better without it. I'm not taking it, and that goes on the Dodgers. Dodger management can say, no, you're not playing, but they're not saying that. God forbid if something happens, it's on the Dodgers, in my humble opinion. Ernie Johnson made the right decision. TBS made the right decision, and Ernie Johnson already has defeated cancer. And he's got kids, he's adopted kids and the whole thing, and it's another one of those nice families, and you don't want anything to happen to him, and he's not flying.
No.
Yet Jansen is, and you make it, you tell me if that's what should be happening morally.
Yeah, I'm going to have to.
We all agree. We all agree with this.
Yeah, we do. I think we all do. He should have gone home 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he should have had that operation, that surgery, and he should be home recuperating, watching it on TV or listening on the radio.
Right.
It's a matter of
life
life
is
and
far
death.
more important than that. That's right.
Yeah, it's not a matter of pennant or a World Series championship. It's a matter of living and being a father.
Absolutely. I would hope there's more to the story than that, but if that's really how it's going down, it's a long, slippery slope there. But
yeah, it is.
I'd like to think there's a lot more going on there. There's got to be a lot of medical attention on the side of letting him pitch. I don't know what's going on with his medication or what have you, but
I don't think any of us really do. Yeah, we're not in the know. We're not sitting there in a stool next to him talking to him in the clubhouse. You know, we're not having a beer with him.
For what we know, he doesn't take. He's not
right. There you go. That's very well put. For what we know,
we aren't going to let him go to Colorado, so there's some reason there that they weren't going to let him go. So maybe on the other side of the coin, it's okay to have him do what he's doing. I hope that's the case, because otherwise,
I hope so too.
Yeah,
I hope so too.
That 6 years ago, he had the same type of.
Yeah, he had the same thing, right?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
His heart is palpitating too quickly. What the medicine does, it slow down the palpitations. Okay, it also means probably you're not going to be able to throw as hard. So they're accepting the fact that they want him to throw hard. Don't take the medicine. And a player's always 9 times out of 10 is always going to say, "I want to play." And so I think that's on management to say, no, you're a human being. You're a nice guy. We want you to live to 103.
You got a family. You got everything, you know.
You've got a family, and you got all the money in the world. We don't want you to gamble. And if you don't get the World Series, we're not blaming you. It's just a health issue. I would love to have heard the Dodgers say that. Just from the point of view of what Ronnie said, he's not taking the medicine. Forget the flight. He is not taking the medicine that the doctor authorized.
Well, you're not going to hear the Dodgers. You're not going to hear the Dodgers say that.
No, but you know what I'm saying. You know,
I wonder if they're giving him something else. You know what I mean? If he's doing something else, they're giving him something else.
But if they're giving him anything else that slows his heart, it would also probably slow his fastball and slow his. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
Wrong.
Perhaps, we don't know that either, but
right.
That makes sense. All right, let's move on a little bit.
Here's the one point, if I may, that would negate this whole thing that we're talking about. There was one team in Major League Baseball this year that was undefeated when they were up by 4 runs at any point in the game. 50-0.
Yep.
Would you like to take a guess as to what team that was?
I'm going to take myself out of this because I'm the one that asked the question. I asked that same question.
Oh, you did?
I think it was the Dodgers.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, the Dodgers are 50-0 this season. Went up by 4 runs or more at any point in the game.
At any point, that's the key. At any point in the game.
Right. That doesn't mean they didn't blow a lead and then win late or an extra innings.
Right.
But it's still undefeated. So just go out there and beat the crap out of Milwaukee, because I'm going to tell you something. Do they even have a starting staff on that team?
I don't think they do.
They don't.
They've only They only had one.
And they went and got Gio Gonzalez late in the season. I don't even know if they used him in the playoffs because they didn't need him. But
he's nothing to write home about. Fred,
no,
Fred.
So they only have one pitcher that has started every game, every 5th day this year, and he's
Chacin.
Chacin. Other than that, they've had the same kind of pitchers injuries the Dodgers have had. They don't have any dominating pitchers. Wade Miley, you know, he was in the minors. I mean, he's not an over.
Yeah, he's got their best ERA, but he hardly pitched.
Yeah, so he's hittable. I mean, they're all hittable, and the Dodgers staff has had nothing but injuries too. So it's interesting. Obviously, we're forgetting that Milwaukee has the home field advantage, and no matter what anybody says, that's an important issue. I mean, in many cases, Dodgers are not going to have home field here or in the next round. So, that's important. I mean, you can certainly win on the road, but it's harder to win on the road than win at home. So,
yeah, well, I personally like the fact that they start in Milwaukee with 2 games because I'll tell you why. I'll explain why. If they started at Dodger Stadium,
right.
If the series started at Dodger Stadium, the Dodgers would be under great pressure to win both of those games, the first 2 games. When you're on the road, all you have to do is steal one of those games, and right away you're coming home. And this is a 7-game series, so you're coming home for 3 games.
Yeah.
You got it made in the shade, baby. All you got to do is get 1 in Milwaukee. Get 1.
Exactly.
That's all they got to do.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable that they're opening up in Milwaukee. The only thing I would like.
What percentage of teams win 3 at home? I know in the NBA they changed it, because a very small percentage of teams were able to win those 3 in the middle. So they changed it to 2-2, 1-1, and 1 for that reason. So I don't know the percentage. Maybe you guys do. What is the percentage? Let's say you split in Milwaukee.
Well, I'm not even thinking, if they split in Milwaukee, I'm not coming back to L.A. thinking that they're going to win 3 in a row. I'll take 2 out of 3.
Back up 3.
I'll take 2 out of 3 and then go back and just split the last 6th or 7th game to win it.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you. The Dodgers had a better record on the road this year anyway.
I like it. I like that they're opening in Milwaukee. Now, before we go any further about the lack of pitching that the Brewers may or may not have, let me just say this. They have a terrific baseball team. Their team is excellent. Excellent. And if the Dodgers allow Yelich to beat them, Roberts should be fired. That's the last guy. They should treat Yelich like Christian Yelich, I'm talking about. They should treat him like teams treated Barry Bonds his last 4 years in the major leagues.
I
Don't
agree.
throw him a strike. Do not throw him a strike. Just don't.
I agree.
Make someone else beat you. Make someone else beat you. Do not let him beat you, because he's the National League most valuable player.
No question about it.
I'm voting.
No
for
question.
Baez, but you can have Yelich. No, he's very, very good, but I'm still going for Baez. But the Cubbies, and it doesn't matter as far as the playoffs are concerned. Yeah, but they got other hitters too. Aguilar.
Yes, they do.
I play fantasy. Believe me, Thames is a hitter. Aguilar is a hitter. Moustakas is a hitter. And they made these deals the last 2 years, Yelich among them, that has changed this club around. So these games might be 6-5, the 7-4, those type of games.
Right.
I don't see too many 1-0 shutouts or 2-0 shutouts.
No.
I really don't.
The thing is this.
Go ahead.
Well, in the beginning of the year, I made the statement that they were going to be a very good team, and the way the season went, I didn't think they were going to catch the Cubs at the end. They've been on fire. They've won 11 straight, but
they've been very hot.
I'm looking at all the players. If you take Yelich away, and you look at what these guys have done, there's some decent numbers, but Shaw obviously had some home runs and RBIs, but he hit 241. Arcia, the shortstop, 236. The second baseman, 233. Ryan Braun, he didn't do much this year. 254.
Bernie, I'm laughing over here. You want to go down the Dodgers averages?
They're all better, every single one of them. And you want to know why? Because they all went up. And your buddy boy that you dreamed about, who was hitting 220 all year.
I call him Kirk. Kike.
He ended up raising his average like 30 points in the last month.
I love him.
And going crazy.
Yeah.
And Puig ended up hitting 267, Kemp 290, Bellinger, who was down all year, got up to 260.
Kemp was hitting 325 for the first half of the year.
Well, that's
what the hell did he hit in the second half? 210?
No, he didn't. He shouldn't even play.
He probably won't. He probably won't. Listen, I didn't mean to say before that Yelich was their only good hitter. All I was saying is don't let him beat you. Let one of the no-names beat you. Don't let Yelich beat you. Yelich is on fire. He won games all by himself for them, not only in the playoffs, the first round of the playoffs, but down the stretch. Every single night it was Christian Yelich. Christian Yelich that he dives on his face and he catches the ball. Then he comes up. He hits a home run in the upper deck and he stole second base. He did everything.
Oh yeah.
You can't let a guy like that beat you, man. Because the guy right now is playing. He's playing like he's possessed right now.
The Dodgers starters
unconscious. Do not throw him a strike.
Exactly. If the Dodgers starters can pitch anywhere near the way they pitched the last 4 weeks, they're winning this series, flat out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a big if.
That's a big if, right?
That's a big if. It's definitely a big if. Because you saw the hiccup with the kid Mueller. Yeah. You saw him have that hiccup.
Yeah. I'd like to think he's
past
that now. He got his feet wet. And now maybe he settles down. I'm not really sure he should be pitching Game 2. And they're keeping Rio for Game 3 when, in fact, he should be Game 1. But that's because his ERA in L.A. is 1.12. So, well,
you know,
I can understand that.
Hey, let me ask you guys, it's going to sound really weird, but I want your opinion. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. An hour ago, I got a phone call, which I didn't answer, from Southern California Edison. They are planning a planned outage. You ready for this? Next Thursday, the 18th, 9 o'clock at night till 5 in the morning. We won't have electricity. They told us.
What?
It's happened in this area. We've lived here 11 years. It's happened 11 times or so. So now it's next Thursday. Okay. So I quickly looked at the schedule, and the Dodgers are actually off that night. Do you think they chose that night because the Dodgers are off, or do you think they don't even care enough? You know, what if it goes game starts? What if it goes extra innings? It could go past 4 hours. Starts at 5. It could certainly go past 9. And so the Dodgers score 6 in the top of the 13th, and they win, and we don't get to see it because we don't have electricity. I'm hoping. So what I'm hoping for here is rain in Los Angeles one of those 3 nights that the Dodgers are home, just so Southern California Edison gets totally screwed because play on Thursday. Then we're going to miss the last couple innings, and they're going to get nothing but shit. Excuse the language, but I mean, come on. So the question is, do you think they checked the schedule, or do you think they didn't check the schedule?
I think they checked the schedule, but how do I know? I don't know. I don't know if they did. I think they did.
That's my guess.
Okay, I hope you guys are right. Otherwise, they really don't care about people at all. Not at all. Yeah. Not at all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I would have to think they looked at it because these are big things, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if it turned out to be a game with the World Series on the line and they're supposed to play and there's no power, that would be interesting.
Right.
Yeah, to say the least.
So that made That made my day complete today. When I go to my message machine and that was there. The 18th at 9 o'clock, and we're turning your electricity on.
So does that mean that Dodger Stadium would be out too?
No, I'm sure it's just our area.
Just your area.
Just your area.
They don't know what it is. Honestly, I was asking my wife, let's go to her mother's house and stay there that night. But then I was thinking, that'd be a perfect time for a burglar to come in if he sees you leave because everything is dark, and so they'd be able to, steal everything in the house. So I think probably we're going to stay. And if the people in Florida can stay during 140-mile winds, I guess we can have 7 hours of no electricity.
Right.
Well, if your power goes out, does that mean that you're not going to have any cell service?
Well, certainly you're not going to have Wi-Fi. I don't know if we're going to have cell or not. I didn't think of that. I don't know.
Because you can watch it on your phone, maybe, or follow it on your phone.
Yeah, I guess.
If you use data.
Yeah, no, I don't mind using the data. Yeah, if the cell still works, the Wi-Fi would go out because that's electricity.
Yeah, right.
But wouldn't all the in the area be out too if there's no electricity?
That's what I was asking. I don't know.
I don't know.
Hours would be out unless I have special.
Hopefully you don't have to find this out.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'm going to find it out because unless honestly, I'm the least religious guy on earth, but God, make it rain in Los Angeles so they can Thursday night.
Yeah.
Hey,
Fred, is there any rumbling out there about Machado? What they're going to do with him?
Oh, he's not coming back.
You don't think?
No way.
I think they'll bring Kershaw back, and what is Corey Seager making? Almost nothing, right? Because he's
almost nothing.
So they're going to balance that out by saving the money on Machado and bringing Kershaw back for 2 more years, and then have Seager as shortstop. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Machado is Machado. He more than likely he's going to either the Phillies or the Yankees. Who knows? He's not coming back to the Dodgers. No way.
No.
Should go back
Bernie,
to
what do you think, Bernie?
I don't think they're going to sign him. Yeah, his numbers with the Dodgers have not been that great. Mm-hmm. That was a huge home run he hit, though.
Yeah.
Why was it ever?
But the funny thing was, it was the David Freese hit. That was a great acquisition, David Freese.
Yeah.
And he could make a huge difference in this series.
Yeah.
And he's clutch.
Yes, he can. Yeah.
And
he could.
And he's the one that got that hit to give him the 3-2 lead. Now, let me ask you guys a question, because I was driving back from down south here, and I was listening on the radio because I couldn't watch the game until I got home. I had something going on, and why did they let Puig steal that base? That was a critical run. They didn't cover Did anybody talk about that? They didn't cover the bag.
You mean when
that was a go-ahead run?
When he tried to steal on the throw from the catcher back to the pitcher, and then he was thrown out at second. Is that what we're talking about?
No, when they didn't make there was nobody covering. The catcher couldn't throw, so he stole second. He stopped 5 feet away from the base and fooled around because they couldn't throw him out. There was nobody there.
Right. I know.
Then
I know the play that Fred is talking about when he had a delayed steal and he was out by 13 or 14 feet.
I don't know. I didn't see it. I didn't even know it happened.
That wasn't that game. It was another game. And then I know what you're talking about. When he saw that he was not going to get thrown out, he stopped 8 feet in front of the bag and stood there and did a little dance.
Pulled up his socks and stuff.
You know what? I'm going to tell you something. That's not funny. That's not funny. If he was thrown out, if someone had snuck up behind him and the catcher had fired the ball down there and they had tagged him out, they would have had to lynch him.
Well, frankly, that's hot dogging to a point where that wasn't necessary. But it did make a point. What are they doing? They're up by a run. It's first and third. There's 2 outs. Yeah. And they just let him steal the base like they gave it to him.
Yeah. I tell you what happened.
They were down 3-2.
I tell you what happened. I was at that particular point in time when that play happened. I had left my TV on, and I had taken my dog in the car to the dog park, and I was listening on ESPN radio to that. And the guy didn't explain it that well. When I got home, and then I saw when everything was over, and they showed the highlights of it, That's when I saw what you're talking about. When he came into second base and he saw no one was there, so he just figured, hey, I can stop and do a little dance here and, be funny. And I didn't like that at all. I thought that was horse shit. And, the more Roberts talks to this guy, the more he just continues to do all of these other things. Missing cutoff time and stuff. He's done it for years and years and years. And you know something? We as Dodger fans overlook it when he hits those 400-foot home runs. And instead of having 9 home runs in a season like he did, now he has 23 or 22 or something. So we start overlooking this stuff. He's still playing all of those silly-ass games. He's playing all that dumb bullshit,
you know what he did in September?
Coach, huh?
Do you know what he did in September?
Yeah, he licked his bat 33 times, and he kissed Turner Ward 61 times.
Right. He also slugged .705 and hit 6 home runs and 18 at-bats.
All right. That's what you're making my point.
Yeah.
You're making my point. Dodger fans overlook his antics when he's going well.
Oh, if he
was over 21, you would have remembered all of the bullshit that he did, and you would be bringing it up.
But you went to a whole other place where I wasn't going. I was just asking a question: what were the Braves thinking? And you went to this whole thing all about Puig. I didn't even care about that.
Brain lock. It was a brain lock. Nobody covered. I don't know.
Yeah, nobody explained it. They did, even on the broadcast, they just let it go. I mean,
really?
It just seemed so improbable to me that this is the go-ahead run. That's not going to happen in this series. I mean, I'd like to think Craig Counsell's a little smarter than that. But
you see that kind of thing all the time, though. Maybe a 2 or 3 run lead, and there's a guy on first, or maybe first and third, and the defense lets the guy go to second. And then, of course, I'm always thinking, wait a minute, you're only 2 or 3 runs ahead. You've just taken away the chance for a force out at second.
Exactly.
Why do that? I mean, why?
Exactly. That's the big thing, the force out.
Yeah, I mean, I never understood that. And, I guess if you're 10 runs ahead, it doesn't matter. But I've seen it with 2 or 3 runs ahead, and then force out. Certainly the way that, they plant the players now, a lot of times a ball up the middle, maybe the guy can beat it out at first base, but if there's a guy at first base, you can force him at second, a ground ball up the middle. And that's gone now because you've allowed him to walk into second base. So I've never understood that, and somebody's going to explain it to me at some point. But
I'm not just saying this, but I always thought the same thing, Fred. I always said to myself, they're losing the force. They're losing the force out. Now, when a guy makes an acrobatic play deep in the hole somewhere, so he's going to have to throw the guy out at first base instead of just forcing the guy at second. Right. That's a big thing for me. For me, that's a big thing.
So what's your handicap, gentlemen?
Well, I don't know. What's their handicap? Probably I always bet. First of all, thank God I don't bet, but I always predict. Let's put it that way. I always predict with my heart. So what I have to say is total horseshit. I'm gonna predict the Red Sox and the Dodgers because I like the Red Sox and the Dodgers, and I want them to be in the World Series. And I don't know. I think the Brewers are a very, very good team. Yeah. And I think I think Houston is a very, very good team. I could see a Houston-Milwaukee World Series very, very easily. Would I like it? No, I wouldn't like it.
No.
But I hesitate. I hesitate to pick the Dodgers and even the Red Sox. I hesitate to pick either one of them, although I would love to see both of them. Ronnie, what do you think?
I think the Dodgers will be okay. I know Milwaukee's a very good team. There's no getting around that. But I think if our pitching holds up, we can beat them.
Absolutely.
So you agree with Ronnie?
I do. I think the Dodgers in 6.
Really? Wow. Freddie, what do you think, Fred?
I have no opinion. I just think that there'll be no shutouts, and bet the over in every game.
Bet the over, baby. You heard it here. Bet the over.
Yeah.
Bet the over. We're going to see some 9-7 games. We're going to see some crazy games.
The Dodger starters can go 6-7 in every one of these games. They need to go at least 6. If they can go 7, they can win this thing in 5. But if they're out in the 5th and 6th, and the bullpen's coming in early, and the Milwaukee bullpen, which is very formidable, can get in control of a lead, late in the game, then they could be in trouble. It's really what it's going to come down to, right there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to come down to pitching. Right.
And I think the Dodgers starters have been pitching so well, and I think Milwaukee played nothing in the last series. They were done. Colorado had nothing to offer.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to come in to a team that is finally playing up to their potential. It's taken all season.
Yeah.
Don't you agree?
You're right. It took them all season to play up to their potential, and now it seems as if that's what they're doing. And if they
here they are.
If they continue to do that and they get the pitching, you're right. They can definitely wrap this thing up and go. And they can
wrap it up in 5 or 6 if that's the way it comes. That's the way I'm seeing it. And you're right. If they let Yelich beat them, they're going to go down in flames. And if they have the opportunity to put him on, because he's a Dodger killer. He kills the Dodgers.
I know.
He did.
And he's
red
hot.
He kills everybody.
Well, this year, he's a good player.
Don't throw him a strike. No,
they have a good
throw him a strike.
The Brewers are no slouch. They have a very good
All right. Gentlemen,
so
I think we've come to the end. I think we've come to the end of another show. By the time we get back on the air next week, the Dodgers will have played how many games? Somebody figure this out real fast.
5.
If we come on the air next Wednesday, they will have played what? 5?
4.
Well, I think Wednesday would be it, right?
Because Thursday, no.
You got Friday, Saturday, you got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday's the 5th game.
4 games. 4 games.
So we'll be on as the 5th game starts, right?
All right. I want to ask you on the air, Bernie Rose, if you will join us again next week.
I think I can do that.
Good.
Good.
Take notes. Take notes all week on what you want to talk about, and make a point. Game 1, game 2, game 3, game 4, like that. And we'll meet back here next week, and we'll do it again. Okay, gentlemen. I want to thank our guest Bernie Rose, and I want to thank my partners Fred Wallin and Ron Rabinovitz. Okay, at the Coupley's Own Radio Network. I'm signing off. Good night, gentlemen. Thanks again.
Good night.
Hi, guys.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
This has been a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.